Every man in that room followed one rule. Never challenge Kang Jinhyuk. Not in public. Not in private. Not even by accident. Because people who corrected him didn't keep their jobs. Sometimes. They didn't keep much more than that. But on that morning, a quiet intern made a mistake no one survives. She said, "That number is wrong." Every empire has a foundation. Some are built on ambition. Some on intelligence. Kang Jinhyuk's empire was built on fear. Not the loud kind. Not chaos. Not violence in the open. No. His kind of fear was quieter. More controlled. The kind that made people double-check emails at 2 a.m. The kind that made executives rehearse sentences before speaking. Because one wrong word could end everything. Kang Jinhyuk wasn't just a CEO. He was the final decision. The last word. The man whose silence carried more weight than most people's anger. He didn't shout. He didn't argue. He didn't negotiate. He simply decided. And once he did, there was no going back. But what happens when someone who doesn't understand fear walks into his world? The 48th floor wasn't just another level. It was where power lived. Glass walls stretched from floor to ceiling, overlooking the city like a reminder. Everything below belonged to someone above. Inside the boardroom, the atmosphere was suffocating. Not loud. Not tense in an obvious way. But controlled. Measured. Every movement intentional. Executives sat straight, eyes fixed forward. No one checked their phones. No one whispered. Because Kang Jinhyuk was already there. At the head of the table. Flipping through a financial report. Slowly. Deliberately. As if time itself waited for him. A senior director stood near the screen, presenting projections tied to a $10 million deal. His voice was steady. But his fingers weren't. Based on Q3 adjustments, we expect a return margin increase. Continue. Jinhyuk didn't look up. Didn't react. Just one word. Flat. Final. And somehow, that made the room even quieter. Everyone in that room was afraid of making a mistake. But one person was about to find something worse. At the far end of the table sat someone no one noticed. Amara Johnson. New. Quiet. Invisible. Exactly how interns were supposed to be. She wasn't meant to speak. Wasn't expected to contribute. Wasn't even supposed to fully understand what was happening. But she did. Because while everyone else watched Kang Jinhyuk, Amara watched the numbers. Her tablet rested in front of her. Her pen moved occasionally. Small notes. Quick calculations. Nothing dramatic. Nothing noticeable. But her mind was working faster than anyone else in that room. And that's when she saw it. The one thing no one else dared to look for. At first, it was subtle. A small inconsistency buried inside a larger projection. Easy to miss. Almost impossible to catch. Unless you were paying attention. Amara leaned slightly forward. Checked the numbers again. Then again. Her brows pulled together. There it was. A miscalculation. Hidden. Precise. Dangerous. Because it didn't just affect one line. It affected everything. If approved, the company wouldn't gain 10 million. It would lose it. Silently. Completely. Around her, executives nodded. Agreeing. Approving. Not because they understood, but because no one questioned anything in front of Kang Jinhyuk. She had two choices. Stay silent and be safe, or speak and risk everything. The presentation ended. The final slide appeared. Clean. Confident. Wrong. Proceed, Jinhyuk said. One word. That should have been the end. It always was. Chairs shifted. People prepared to move on. The decision was seconds away from being locked in. And Amara knew. If she said nothing, no one else would. Her grip tightened around her pen. Her heartbeat rose. Not fear. Clarity. Because now, this wasn't about numbers. It was about choice. Who she was willing to be. And then, she did the one thing no one in that room had ever dared to do. That number is wrong. Silence. Instant. Absolute. The kind that didn't just fill the room. It crushed it. Heads turned. One by one. Until every eye landed on her. The intern. The invisible one. Who had just spoken. And worse. Corrected him. Kang Jinhyuk slowly lifted his gaze. For the first time. He looked at her. Everyone expected punishment. But what happened next shocked the entire room. Explain it again. Not anger. Not dismissal. Attention. Real attention. Amara didn't hesitate. The third quarter adjustment assumes stable input costs, she said calmly. But it ignores overseas supply fluctuation. If you adjust for that variance, the margin collapses. Silence. Jinhyuk listened. Didn't interrupt. Didn't challenge. Just processed. And then, recalculate. The director froze. Yes, sir. That was it. No punishment. No consequence. Just correction. In a room where no one survived correcting him, she just did, and walked away untouched. The meeting ended. But something didn't. Because for the first time in years, Kang Jinhyuk had been surprised. And he didn't ignore things he didn't understand. He studied them. That night, a file appeared on his desk. Amara Johnson. Age 24. Top percentile. Exceptional records. Overqualified. His eyes narrowed slightly. Why was someone like her? An intern. The more he looked into her, the more something didn't make sense. Days passed. And he watched. Not openly. Not directly. But consistently. She worked differently. While others rushed. She slowed down. Analyzed. Verified. While others followed orders. She questioned them. Silently. And most importantly, she didn't try to impress him. She didn't seek attention. She didn't want anything. And that made her dangerous. Because the only people Kang Jinhyuk couldn't control were the ones who didn't want anything from him. Come to my office. No explanation. No context. Just a command. Amara read it. Stood up. And went. No hesitation. No fear. The walk was long. Quiet. People noticed. They always did. Because being called by Kang Jinhyuk never meant something good. Everyone expected her to walk in afraid. But she didn't. You corrected a senior director. Yes. No apology. Why? Because the numbers were wrong. Silence. You weren't concerned about consequences? If the numbers were approved, the consequences would have been worse. Jinhyuk studied her. You're not afraid of me. I don't know you. That answer changed everything. For the first time in years, someone wasn't treating him like power, but like a person. You're overqualified, he said. She didn't react. Why are you here? Because I wanted to be. Simple. Unfiltered. Unpredictable. He nodded once. You can go. But something had already changed. Because now, he was watching her. Not as an intern, but as something else. And someone else had already noticed the change. Han Soo-jin didn't believe in coincidence. Especially not when it came to Kang Jinhyuk. Men like him didn't change. They didn't shift focus. They didn't start noticing interns. But now, he had. And that meant one thing. Something was wrong. She followed the pattern. Quietly. Carefully. Until it led her to one name. Amara Johnson. And the moment she saw that name, she already knew what had to happen next. Soo-jin leaned back slightly, eyes sharp, calculating. This wasn't emotion. It wasn't jealousy. It was strategy. If Amara was a weakness, she would be removed. If she was an asset, she would be controlled. But one thing was certain. She wouldn't be ignored. Because in a world like this, being noticed was never a good thing. That night, Amara stood alone on the rooftop. The city stretched beneath her. Quiet, still, deceptively calm. And then, she heard footsteps. Slow, measured, deliberate. She turned. Han Soo-jin stepped out of the shadows. Elegant, composed, dangerous. This wasn't a meeting. It was a warning. Soo-jin didn't smile, didn't threaten, didn't need to. Intelligence makes you valuable. A pause. Her eyes sharpened. But it also makes you visible. The wind shifted. Cold. Sharp. You're in the kind of room where visibility gets people destroyed. Silence. Heavy. Final. Then, she turned. And walked away. Just like that. Leaving nothing behind. Except one truth Amara couldn't ignore. She hadn't just corrected a mistake. She had stepped into something far bigger. Something hidden. Something dangerous. Something already in motion. And what she didn't know yet was that someone else was already planning her downfall. And this time, it wouldn't be subtle.